Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Please send your questions and comments in to dj@artistfirst.com. And now here they are, your hosts. It's Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And yes, you are listening to The Soul of the Everyman. And all I can say is that you have good instincts.
Yes, indeed.
Because I am Michael Lyons, and
I'm Margaret.
And my getting together with Margaret now over 3 decades ago was proof of my good instincts.
Ah, I see.
So you may have sensed, see how I did that? You may have sensed that we're going to be talking about instinctive thinking tonight. And if you did, you can just pat yourself in the gut.
Indeed. Right on the gut.
Right on the gut. Because we always do this. Margaret, we always find that language informs, and that's one of the things that people always say. When you're acting on instinct, you're saying, I went with my gut.
Right. And it's far more accurate than people realize. Yeah, I think we had spoken of this before, that they are now, the scientific community is now recognizing that the belly, where the vagus nerve feeds into, actually is attached to most of the body, but that attachment goes direct. It's not through the spinal cord.
Right.
So they're realizing that, and they've nicknamed that particular gut mass as the second brain, mostly because the neurotransmitters that are usually in the brain that we use in our head.
That some people use.
Indeed.
Right.
Is also found in that gut region. In fact, most of it is through your digestive tract. Most of the neurotransmitter is found in the digestive tract, and
the receptors. Serotonin receptors are also found in the digestive tract, in the mesentery.
Right, and it should give one pause when you think of it. Why, if the brain is the one that's controlling everything, why aren't all the receptors and the neurotransmitters and the serotonin just found in the brain? Why is it found mostly in the mesentery? It's there's something there that had not been studied. So yeah, they are now finding the data that allows for the acceptance of the concept of a consciousness within your gut. And it is connected to your physical body. So it's a more instinctive way of thinking.
Right. Yeah, and very much also connected with the primitive, well, let's call it the original nervous system, not necessarily the primitive nervous system, but the vagus nerve and the other cranial nerves, which do not go through the spinal cord. They extend directly out from the brain to various parts of the body, both parts of the face, parts of the esophagus and the lips and the tongue, the glottal nerves, and then down into all through this gigantic long nerve, the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, which goes all the way down to the mesentery and connects the two. And in some regards, the communication is certainly not one way. It's not that the brain is controlling these things. It's that these things have just as much thought, if you will, or just as much information, sometimes more information, is flowing back up into the brain rather than being pushed down. It's not a command and control kind of situation where the brain is just telling the tummy, do this now.
How many times have we done that and it doesn't work?
and it doesn't work. And in essence, this mesenteric brain, this true second brain in the body, is informing what we are calling, the cranial brain. That's the mass of protoplasm between your ears there. You know, in many ways, it's a dual control system. It's not, sort of a nerve center and a satellite, this little satellite brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking with your gut, which is kind of come into the language as, people say, well, I right away, I liked this person. Right away, true love. I loved this person right away. Or conversely, right away, I got a bad feeling from him or her in my gut.
Right.
And when something hits you like that, it does. We can all experience this feeling of, I felt right in my gut, like a punch in my gut,
Mm-hmm.
that I felt this emotion, or this feeling, or this thought comes to you fully formed without your conscious volition, but yet you can act on it, and it oftentimes is much truer and more right.
Right. And that kind of, we say behavior, but it is a way of communicating to another individual. I know that when I grew up in a city, so there's a certain way of acting in a city that communicates to other people around you. And it's something that I remember talking to our guys about. There's the city mode, as well as, you're in the country, you're concerned about other things. But being in city mode, you know when something is wrong, something is off, or somebody has eyes on you. Mm. And the eyes on you are not of good intention. So there's a part of you that just perks right up and goes, wait a minute. And you look around, and the response is key. Because when you feel that and you look around and you find where those eyes are coming from, you look directly back at them and say, I see you. Mm. You can't hide from me. The body stance changes. You're centered. You're standing and aware and prepared. It's like suddenly your energy level goes way up because you're on high alert. That communicates to the world around you. And suddenly, whoever it may be, understands this is not going to be an easy target.
Right. So there's more than just your gut to your brain. There's in essence a full flow from your gut to your brain, alerting you. We all have had that feeling that I'm being watched. You can know when you're being watched, and you can certainly say that this is a survival mechanism. That the
very primal
that you would want to know when you're being considered prey.
Yes. I mean, it's about as basic as it comes.
Right. Something wants to eat me. Okay. So that feeling comes up in your brain, but it comes from a part of you that is not conscious. It is not subconscious, but it is not the conscious brain of, oh, look, squirrel. It's not. That's not the conscious brain is constantly looking at things all around it and saying, ooh, car, ooh, squirrel, ooh, whatever. But this part of you, kind of reaches up and says, danger, alert.
Pay attention.
Now look around and find out where that danger is coming from. But you weren't looking. You weren't even sitting there and going, well, I should be looking out for danger. You were just going along, happy-go-lucky, and all of a sudden, you get the feeling. And that instinctive thinking can be very powerful. There are folks who have written books about harnessing that, allowing your gut, or in essence, listening to your gut when you have important decisions or decisions that matter to you. Decisions about whether you have cream with your coffee or sugar with your coffee, and that's those are the things that you can let the 5 pounds of fat between your ears take care of. But when it's life, right? When it's life and death, listen to your gut. When it's important, when it's meaningful, when you've got to make a decision that will either save the day or possibly lose it. Take that moment, center yourself, which is also, again, the language informs. Center yourself down here, ground yourself, put yourself into the communication, kind of active communication with that gut brain, and say, is this right?
Well, you're present. Your consciousness becomes fully present, and you ground into the moment. And when that happens, that gut consciousness is right there in alignment, and it will feed you all the information that it's picking up in that instant.
Right.
As well as, your conscious mind, which you have to get into alignment, not allow it to just take over. Because the conscious mind, the thinking mind wants to take over and tell you exactly what you should be doing, because it's got the list of priorities and it will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That has nothing to do with whether or not the body feels like its survival is at stake.
Right.
And there may be pain around the corner. So it understands at a visceral level that this is not where we want to be. What is going on? Let me feed my information to that point of decision.
Mm.
And that space around you, the physical space around you, is something that your physical body actually extends itself outward and takes in a lot of information. And this is how it basically taps you and says, warning, this is wrong. So you have to, that point of consciousness has got to turn and go, okay, what is wrong about it? And then that instinctive consciousness is able to feed all that information directly into that. Now, the thought part of you, the intellect that wants to just kind of take over, has got to be put in an observation mode, all right? Because that's part of the reception of the information coming in. And if it's looked on as danger, your fear and your emotions must also get into alignment with, I might have to bust a move here.
Mm.
So I'm going to need that energy, the fear energy, to feed into that where it's supposed to.
Mm.
So everything knows that it has a specific part to play.
Right. And in exactly that, the training, or rather the untraining, is to stop letting, plankton run his plankton mobile. Stop letting the top little conscious part of your brain, the top little triangle, try to run everything and tell everything what to do and have its lists and its.
Well, don't go to that as your safety, your comfort zone. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Because people, when they feel like they're in a danger point or unsure, when they're unsure, they go into that comfort zone of, let me figure it out. It's like, no, you don't understand. You need everything in you to be able to operate smoothly, everything to feed into you, everything to hold in the moment, be present in the moment, and balanced in the moment. And then you can make a decision.
Right, and what I was getting to was untraining yourself and training yourself to be actively listening to the rest of you. So the way that these folks who have talked about using the mesenteric brain, the gut, to help you make decisions, is that you actively open yourself to asking the question. And it can be a very simple question. Is this right? Or is this wrong? And listen to the response, Should I do this? Yes or no? And it's not this, this analyst says this, and I can see the returns on that. It's really allowing your intuition or your instinct to make its input known, and then let it listen and guide. The gut is a soft voice. Some people's guts are soft too, but the gut is a soft voice. It certainly will yell when there's danger, but it doesn't always yell when it just knows something. It says, this isn't right, or this is right. I'll bring up an example that we were speaking about earlier, which is not related to survival, but it's related to nutrition or to sustenance. When you were saying that you look at how you're putting together something that you're cooking and saying that I know what it needs without the recipe, without any kind of instruction, because I use my gut, I use that connection to what is right,
or for your body at that point.
At that point, and you say you sniff it. Well, one of the basic constructs in the brain is the connection of the nose to very deep structures within the brain, which also connect to that mesenteric brain, and they also connect directly to things like deep memory and emotion. So smells very, very strongly associated with memory and with emotion. And they are very strongly associated with this mesenteric connection. So when you literally are, again, for survival, you would sniff something to know whether it was going to be good to eat or maybe kill you, And then knowing where the good things were to eat was part of that sniffing, or that using these deep structures in the brain to evoke memory. Oh, this time of year smells like this, and it means this is ready to be eaten.
Or sniffing a piece of fruit and knowing when it's ripe and when it's not. Exactly.
When the meat is off, or when it's okay to eat this piece of meat or whatever it is. So you get a very, again, it's a lot of this mesenteric brain and this sort of original nervous system is really centered around survival.
Very basic. And
but
whether
go ahead.
Whether or not by the smell you know if this is exactly what your body happens to need at this point in time. It's like certain like suddenly you needed a banana, and it's mostly because of the potassium that's in that banana, but you just need a banana. Or when a woman's pregnant, suddenly you have these cravings, and it's not your body that needs it specifically. It's the body that's growing within you that needs it, that communicates to your body, that tells you need to go find this.
By the way, that's a wonderful, again, example of the mesenteric brain. The fetus, which is developing, is connected almost directly, almost at least proximally, to that mesenteric brain. So that communication between fetus through the blood barrier, the placental barrier, through to the mesentery, it's all right there. It's all within centimeters of each other. Well, that isn't by accident. That's by design. So those cravings, that mesenteric brain that says, I need a jelly donut, Ich bin ein Berliner, I need a jelly donut right now, is because there is a true communication going on. It isn't just a hey man, it looks like this looks good, and that's your top level brain saying, oh yes, they were on sale today and I had to get one. No, it's like you're walking along and suddenly your nose is like snapped to the right, and it's like, and your eyes goggle open, and it's like, I need that.
True. It's so true. Or you're just rolling along and suddenly the smell grabs you of something that's being made, and you're like, oh, good, that's good. Well, all you know is your body's going, good, very good, good.
Right, and that's what we were saying before. Again, when you talk about opening yourself to allowing that communication and actively listening, it is at that level. It isn't at a, this would be a great idea. We really ought to invest in this. It's like good or bad or danger.
Right.
The words, the mesenteric brain's words are very basic. They're not necessarily feelings. They're really pulses of communication. They evoke feelings. So danger evokes fear, and good might evoke some sort of a response of hey, let's really do this. I feel great when I do this. But those pulses of information that are coming up and coming up through the basic structures of the brain, those cranial nerves, which connect really to the center of your brain, evoke other things like emotion, like flight or whatever. But you can actively say, hey, there's something going on out here. There's all this stuff happening. What do I do now? Good or bad? And you can hear that, dum, good, or dum, no, don't do. It's just it'll growl it. Or it's like from young Frankenstein, like, or oh, oh, mystery of life. At last I found you.
Oh, that's so funny. It's kind of like
it's so true.
True. It's like listening to animal communication, the grunts and the whines and the.
But it's exactly like that,
Yeah.
And that's you see people who there's a number of people who do sort of interactions with animals. They either train them or whatever, and a lot of that interaction with an animal is on that energy or that gut communication level. They're not looking at, no, tiger, no, don't jump on the counter. They're looking at, do I mean it? Or am I just kind of waving my finger in the air and it doesn't matter? And that's intention, and it's intention that's coming from your center. Are you really the leader? Do I have to listen to you?
Yeah, it's that, if you think about it, now that's a basic when it comes to that body language and body existence. Who is in charge? Because that's a major thing of just physical communication. There's got to be an order. Now, it's more obvious in certain animals than it is in others. Like if you say dogs, there's always this order that they function in because they're in a pack.
Yeah.
Cats, on the other hand, you can't herd cats.
Yep. No such thing as a pack of cats.
But there is such a thing as a pride. So, and that's a family thing. So it's each one a different expression, but it's also understanding that kind of communication is key to a physical body existence. You understand that you are in a grouping. So if you're in a grouping, how is this grouping functioning? Usually you have to have one who acts as a leader or as an authority of some kind, and the rest fall into a comfortable position within that. I know people want to talk about, there's no leader, we all do it all together, but it's like there's going to be one part of this group that's got to go in a direction, and that makes the turn and the decision. Without that, you will have chaos.
Exactly, and I think people conflate leadership with sort of a static dominance thing.
Yeah, there's too much emotion tied to that. When you're looking at an instinctual understanding of leadership, you just understand that this one person happens to be the one that set the direction. It doesn't always have to be the same person.
Right.
But as humans, this is how we function. There's usually one that makes a decision that goes in a direction, and we agree or we may not. But that is a dynamic that is basic to human interactions.
Well, and to bring it back to our sort of premises, is those decisions are often made at a mesenteric level. You feel that the group is going to move in this direction. They pick their leader, in essence, by a sort of an occult process. It isn't necessarily always
occult.
Well, it's hidden. It's not overt. It isn't like, it always is this particular person, or it is in some ways a decision which is arrived at without a conscious, overt process.
Yeah, like formal voting.
Right. Now, and of course, you can formalize anything, and people do, but at the end of the day, when the chips are down, and this again, it goes all back to survival. When the chips are down, and a decision has to be made, and a group of people or a group are involved that will benefit or not based on the actions of the moment. Leadership is important. It isn't about dominance. It's really about acting together for the benefit of all. But you still have to act in unison. It's not acting in chaos for the benefit of all.
There is no such thing as acting in chaos for the benefit of all.
Exactly.
That is every man for himself.
Right.
But what you said before, it's understanding that it's not a thought process. You are in an active process. The action means energy is being focused in a direction. Okay, it's not scattershot, which most people, you didn't consider this, and you didn't consider that, and you didn't consider this. That means that there is no step that's going to be taken. It just, you're basically stuck in a spot. Movement dictates an action, and that is what the mesentery understands. You have to bust a move. Go.
Right.
And it's good here, or bad here, or,
Right. But it's action in a direction.
Yes.
The definition of movement.
Yes.
And now we're going to actively direct ourselves back to the studio. And when we come back on the top side of the bottom half of the hour, we're going to talk about how we combine the spiritual with the instinctual.
Taking God on Patrol is a first-person account of the world of law enforcement from the perspective of a Christian police officer in the fourth largest city in America. From speeding car chases to the crossing of the thin blue line, author Mark S. Cariner seeks to find God's biblical truth in a behind-the-scenes look at law enforcement. And check out Mark's newest book, The Tactical Heart. Both are available at Amazon.com.
Hi, this is Pamela Foland. Check out my new book, Megan the Pet Whisperer, available at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Please visit my website, www.PamelaFoland.com. You're listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Hi, my name is Christina Garlick, and my new book, Nevada Rain, is now available. It's a sci-fi fantasy story for ages 14 and up. I hope you check it out, and of course enjoy. Also, you're listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network that has a station for everyone.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. winner of both the Indie Brag Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir. There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Thanks for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Now back to your hosts. It's Margaret and Michael Lyons.
And thank you very much, Seaman. And yes, you are listening to The Soul of the Everyman, and I'm Margaret. And tonight we are talking about instinctive thinking.
And for the first part of the show, we're going kind of into the physical aspects and some of the energy aspects of instinctive thinking. But for this half of the show, I think we had kind of touched on this in a couple of other shows about how when you are able to still the mind and still the kind of the active thinking part of you, the part of you that is concerned about whether or not you've paid your mortgage and you know all the bills and everything, all the list, and still that, and then get in touch through, let's say, a meditative state. It doesn't necessarily have to be meditation, but still the active mind. You put yourself in touch with two things at the same time. You put yourself in touch with the grounded, centered you. Let's call it that sort of mesenteric brain, the body brain that whispers. And you also, at the same time, are able to touch into the all, into the spiritual, into that which is beyond you. And in some ways, you create this sort of fulcrum between the spirit and the body. You connect the earth and the sky. You know, there are many, many different analogies to this becoming a grounded into the earth, connected to the spirit, to the sky, and being in the center. You aren't at the top connecting down. You're not at the bottom connecting up. You are in the middle of the mandala, you know, and connecting with all. The ground, and you're providing a channel of energy from the ground to the spirit. And that's a very important part of instinctive thinking. Right.
And converse is true, from spirit back down to ground.
Exactly.
It's interesting because a lot of traditions, they talk about doing that where they say they're pulling spirit energy down and in, but they don't necessarily understand that you've got to be completely grounded in the moment, in your body. That body consciousness automatically understands that it is part of the earth itself. That's one of the main reasons why it can tell you if the atmosphere around you, the place that you happen to be in, where you are physically standing, is good or not, because it automatically tunes in to the environment around it. Your body is a reflection of the earth itself, so it understands how to extend itself. Like the analogy is always the rooting of trees. Extends itself outward and becomes part of the world around it. Understanding that is taken up in energy and consciousness through your body, literally through your spinal column. It literally is a column, and all the way up to the crown of your head. And this is reaching for heaven, or your concept of God or divine energy or life energy. Opening up to that and just abiding there. Just as when you grounded, you allow your body to abide standing on the earth. When you raise that energy up to the crown of your head, you abide at the crown and you call for divine spirit to come fill you. When that comes back, when you get your response, it travels from the crown through your chakras all the way back down through your body into that root system that you have established as the ground of who you are. And that energy goes down through your roots to the earth herself, and then it comes back up. So there is a conversation that goes on between earth and heaven and back down, heaven and earth. Conversation is two-way, not one. Some traditions take either one going up, and others just only coming down without a ground. Having that spirit energy coming down without a ground basically dissipates. You can't hold it. Whatever comes in, you will not be able to hold without a ground. And as that exchange is happening, heaven and earth through you, you must balance this energetic flow, and you hold your consciousness in your heart, because it is in the heart that everything balances. Everything is balanced through heart energy. And it takes practice and discipline to be able to understand when the heart energy is growing. You must have that flow and the presence in the heart, and then allow that flow to begin to feed into your heart. It is amazing because your consciousness is exceedingly calm at that point. It doesn't matter what's going on around you, because your connection to earth and heaven is so solid. It's more real than everything that you may be looking at around you. Balanced in the heart allows you to see through the eyes of compassion and love. And everything becomes possible at that moment.
Right. And then, when you do that, again, this meditative state oftentimes is confused with sort of a static state. But you can be in a moving meditation. And in fact, when people describe feeling as though everything they did, every action they took felt right, when they describe as though, I felt as though I was everything I did was in sync, in harmony with the universe. I was acting, almost without volition, but yet I knew I was doing everything correctly. This ability to balance in the heart is also the ability to act both volitionally. You are there, but you are also doing what the universe, what the energy needs to be done at that moment. You are now not just something that is moving on the earth, but you are moving with the earth. You're moving with the spirit energy. So your actions become writ large. They become sort of part of the great flow. You can feel as though you're buoyed up on this great flow, and that everything you're doing is exactly what you should be doing at that moment. And people describe this as sort of a feeling of oneness, of completeness. But it isn't necessarily always, you're not just sitting there static in one. You can be moving in one. You can be acting in one. You can be talking and interacting with others as one. The relationships that you're having with somebody can be in that moment, and the moment can continue moment to moment to moment if you practice that.
Right. Right. Ideally speaking, that's how you should be living.
Exactly.
It's conscious in the moment of now. which means that if you're practicing it, it's continuous. Every moment is now.
You mean like now?
Right.
Hmm.
So if that internal discipline can be embraced and you can follow through with it, it expands your consciousness. It's understanding that this instinctive consciousness that connects itself to the earth and everything around it, just that step alone is amazing. But in this conversation with heaven, it expands to the point where it begins to comprehend that it is one not only with this earth, but with the universe itself. The universe is body, and you are part of that body. So that is an expansion of consciousness on that instinctual level.
Right.
And it's fascinating just sort of reflecting on that, because it is an understanding that the universe itself is a body, a creation.
Mm.
And connecting up to the energy realm and the spirit realm is where the force and the energy is. And that is another part of your being state.
Right.
So it's beginning to expand in distinctions between concepts, because people say, oh, well, it's the universe, it's this, it's that. It's just this sort of very broad brush. It's kind of like when people look at the soul and the spirit, they mash them together to mean the same thing. But they are not. They're actually two separate things, similar, but very distinct in their energies. So it's, again, expanding your body consciousness to understand that the universe itself is something that this physical body of mine is actually a part of. Right. Usually the first step is realizing that this physical body of yours is actually a part of the world around you and is actually feeding you information moment by moment. Are you actually hearing what it's telling you? Most people don't, because I think someone had shown me, it was like I think it was a kindergarten class, and they were drawing people, and this is what people look like. And they usually, it's a head with stick legs and stick arms, but the legs and the arms, and there was no body, they were all head.
Hmm.
Everything is to carry the head along from here to there.
Right.
There was no body there. And that's a big indicator, because that means that the concept of who you are is only this thinking head. All you need is legs to bring it around to show the head the next thing. You didn't even have a neck.
Right, and you could say, well, that's the concept of a kindergartner, but it's often the concept of people who are ostensibly adults, is that they're just kind of ferrying their head along from situation to situation, and never involving the body, never involving the spirit. It's very much this kind of bobble-headed sort of existence where you're just kind of turning your attention from one thing to the next, and always trying to think your way through. And the point of instinctive thinking is allowing yourself to feel your way through in some regards, but not just feel in the sense of, well, I feel it's good or I feel it's bad, and these are more mental concepts, but truly to open yourself and say, is this right? Does this feel right? Again, language informs. It felt right. People say, well, how did you know, a great artist? How did you know to paint it that way? It just felt right. How did you know to write this particular poem in the way that you wrote it? I don't know. It just that's what it felt like to me. That's what great art. Really anything that people put together through this sort of these sort of, let's call them genius moments. When you kind of intuit to something that is beyond what you should have perhaps been able to think about what to do. These intuit moments where you create great art, you create a wonderful concept, are listening to that voice, the voice that is at the mesenteric level, and getting there without having all the I's dotted, T's crossed, steps traveled. You just get there in this sort of flash of inspiration. This it felt right. Why did you do it? Well, I don't know. It felt right. Mm-hmm. And it worked out. Right. But you cannot explain, but yet you can't make it too mysterious, because every one of us has that genius level flash insight. And I was reading something the other day, and they said that if you take a group of kindergartners again, all their brains are operating at sort of a genius intuitive level. They figure stuff out without having enough information to do so. They just don't. They just say it felt right, mm-hmm. And we kind of beat it out of ourselves by stopping not listening to the feels good, doesn't feel good, feels right, doesn't feel right part of ourselves, and getting it all up into the my accountant. And when you have that kind of do this, do that, do the other thing kind of stuff that's on your mind, it detracts from the connection that you have with the spiritual and with that mesenteric brain. And I think right. At this point our mesenteric brain, my instincts are telling me that we've reached the end of the show.
I see. Well.
So with all good instincts, as everyone knows, you should always leave them wanting more.
We probably should talk about this at another point. But, I'm Margaret. And
I'm Michael, and you've been listening to the Soul Show, and thank you very much for listening.